Hey everyone, this is the last mini lecture in the sedatives chapter. I'll be talking about a couple different types of sleep aids. So sleep aids are really any drug to induce sleep. Ambien was developed in 1993, and it was followed by some others, Lunesta, Rozapreme. Ambien acts on the same benzodiazepine receptors that induce sleep, but it's more selective. So it doesn't reduce anxiety. It doesn't have the same kind of sedating effects that other benzos do. It really just helps the person feel sleepy. The effects are short-lived, they only last for a few hours, and it's safe if used as directed and for a short period of time. And by safe, I mean it's less risky in terms of addictive potential and in terms of the additive or synergistic effects it can have with other substances. However, it can cause amnesia. And in some cases, if someone pushes past the sleepy feeling and they somehow manage to stay awake, the person can then engage in like complex activities and kind of act normally, but they're under this sleepy, weird twilight state that's sort of caused by Ambien, and they have no recollection or memory of it. And so I actually, a friend's mom is prescribed Ambien for a sleep disorder, and occasionally she somehow accidentally stays up after taking her Ambien, and what she'll end up doing is online shopping. And they had an instance where she had no recollection of it, but all of a sudden there were like 20 tomato plants that showed up at her door, and she did not want to buy tomato plants. But it was because she took her Ambien, accidentally stayed up too long, and then went about her evening and made a questionable online purchase and had no recollection of it. And so that is a really kind of tongue-in-cheek, lighthearted example, but you can imagine that that might lead to some serious potential problems if someone doesn't have a memory of things they do after they've taken an Ambien. Belsmora is a more recent sleep aid that was developed in 2014, and that acts on a different part of the brain. It really blocks these neurotransmitters orexins, which promote wakefulness. So rather than tickling the receptors that promote sleep, they tickle the receptors that promote a wakefulness, or they block those receptors, excuse me. Sort of the opposite action of Ambien, but with the same effect. GHB is another sleep aid that was used as a treatment for narcolepsy, and it has been abused more often by teens and young adults, especially in the rave scene. Also, like roofies, it can easily be put into a drink and can be fatal when combined with alcohol, and also contributes to the drug-assisted rape in the same way that roofies do. GHB binds to GABA, but it has its own receptors as well and can easily cross the blood-brain barrier. So it's a pretty potent substance. And similarly to the other drugs we talked about, withdrawal is difficult and requires medical help. What's important to know is that the substances that I'm talking about in this mini lecture, they're not classified as benzodiazepines, but they do have a sedative effect, and they are related to sleep disorders. And additionally, what can happen with these drugs is the same risk that can happen with the benzodiazepines we talked about before. So people can forget how many pills they've taken. They're not aware of the additive and synergistic effects. They've developed a selective tolerance, which would mean that their body doesn't give them the same high sensation. And so they would need more of the drug to get the same relaxation feeling, but their body has not adapted to the suppressed breathing. And so they need more of the drug to feel high, but their body hasn't caught up to their tolerance of the drug in terms of their breathing function. So if they take enough of the drug to get high, their breathing stops. So it's a selective tolerance that can lead to potential overdose. Additionally, there tends to be more abuse among adolescents because of this kind of feeling of invulnerability, that they're nothing's going to happen to them. It's safe. It looks like a prescription pill. So it feels safer than a street drug, but it can actually be just as deadly, if not more, especially when taken in combination with something like alcohol or an opiate.